Yeah, good morning, guys. You're on the Get Busy Living podcast. We've got an awesome podcast this morning. We've got a very special guest, and I'm Dr. Scott from Sixth Sense Acupuncture and the Healthy Habits Club. And we've got a wonderful guest this morning. This is Dennis Hall from AusBiz Links. Thank you so much, Dennis, for giving us your time today and some gold nuggets as well. Much appreciated.
You're more than welcome, Scott. Anything for you, you know that, mate.
Yeah. Well, I've tried that. I pushed that envelope and it doesn't work. Sorry to say, we've tried just about everything. And
yeah,
there is a line for Dennis Hall. So Dennis, I'm going to ask the usual first question. So tell us, Dennis, what gets you out of bed every morning?
Well, I would say coffee and cake, but that's being a little bit facetious for those that don't know me. But no, mate, for me, it's about, the joy of life. I mean, we live in fabulous times. I'm not saying there aren't challenges associated with living in the 21st century, but, there is so much opportunity. There are so many avenues to explore. I think whilst sleep is a necessary evil, staying in bed for too long is definitely never on my agenda. I can't wait to get up in the morning and see what the day has for me. So it's about enjoying life. It's about taking and seizing opportunities, and it's also for me, I guess, helping other people to seize their opportunities, because I mean that's what I've been about for quite a while, and it's certainly what my business is about. So that's both the short and the long answer in one hit.
So it's not 5 o'clock; it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's more about the community, and that's what I love about you, Dennis. Is that you think about the community a lot, and how you can benefit the community itself. So much appreciate that you do that.
Cheers.
All right. So I'll go into the second question, the crazy question. So what got you into AusBiz Links? Because is this a new name? This is a new name, isn't
it? No. Well, AusBiz Links has been going since the early 2000s. It started off as a digital marketing support business, so web hosting, web design, SEO, that sort of stuff. But I mean, as you know, in 2015, my wife and I moved over to Germany for a 2-year live, work, travel type of experience, and I continued AusBiz Links then, because obviously being out of Australia, a digital business made sense. But when we came back from that in 2019, I started up a coaching business, which was aimed at supporting local businesses more than anything. That was Direct Dialogue, and Direct Dialogue is actually still a going concern. But in 2022, one of my clients, Paula Brand, who I'd been working with for a little while with her small business expos, decided that she wanted to take a change in direction, and we had a little bit of a chat about that, and from that came the Business and Jobs Expos, which is a part of the AusBiz Links community. So AusBiz Links provides local businesses with direction in how to market themselves, how to make a difference, and that's where the Business and Jobs Expos fits in. Because it is actually a direct marketing channel. It's a B2B one-day expo that we operate throughout Southeast Queensland. So in a nutshell, I'm still doing what I've been doing for quite a while, but instead of just providing people with strategies and advice, I can also provide them with both some online and physical direct marketing exposure, the physical exposure through the expos and the online exposure through our buy local directory, which we are starting to ramp up during the course of this year.
Yeah, right. So tell us more about that. Tell us more about the expos. Are you going to do a few this year, or?
Yeah, definitely. Look, the expos are aimed unapologetically at local and micro businesses. So typically, they're small family businesses, and we all know that local businesses. A life in local business is tough. Lots of competition, lots of economic conditions working against us, and we need every break we can get. So the expos are designed to bring local businesses together. So it's a business to business environment where they can display and demonstrate their services and products to other local businesses as well as members of their community. So it provides a direct exposure, and we have within that opportunities for local business operators and owners to upgrade their expertise. We have business presentations. For example, this year we've got a gentleman by the name of Thomas Pollock, who I've known for a number of years, but his speciality is in helping smaller businesses pitch for government business, especially local government and state government business. And as we all know, whether you like it or not, we've got the Olympics coming to Brisbane in 2032, and there's something like $30 billion worth of business that's going to happen between now and 2032 to get ready for the juggernaut that is the Olympics, right? So how does local business get a slice of that 30 billion? I mean, you don't need to get a big slice to make a decent living, but there are some hoops to jump through, and not everybody knows what those hoops are. Thomas is a specialist in that area, and he shows local businesses what opportunities are available, how to identify those opportunities, and more importantly, how to prepare your business so that you qualify to be able to put bids in for that sort of business. So that's just one example of a mini workshop that we have at the expos that's designed to help local businesses grow. And we got several others in terms of marketing input, how to develop strategy. We've got a great little new edition this year called Hot Seat Coaching, where we'll have between 4 and 6 coaches that are recognized experts in fields like finance, in fields like marketing, in fields like professional development, and obviously local business, etc., where you can sit with a coach for 15 minutes, totally free, and ask them the one burning question in their field of expertise that might be holding that business back. So there's opportunities not just to show your wares, demonstrate your products and services, but there's also opportunities to actually grow through professional and personal development. And that's really what the expos are about. So we have got at least 4 expos happening this year. The first one will be in Brisbane at the end of March. Then we have one in Logan on the 29th of May. We've got one in Moreton Bay, which is your backyard, Dr. Scott, and that will be in the latter part of July. So we've got these expos scheduled to run through basically from March through to October. With the exception of April, which is a disastrous month for local business because we've got Easter, we've got Anzac Day, and then that's closely followed by Labor Day, the first weekend in May. So we've got about 4 or 5 short weeks in a row, and we don't want to burden local business with another short week by saying, guess what, we've got a day for an expo that's going to happen in April. So no expos in April. Although we might run a virtual one in April, still deciding on that. But for the rest of the year, so May, June, July, August, September, we'll have a physical expo going on somewhere, So we like to think that we're giving local business as much opportunity as possible to really get in front of their community and to also establish connections with other local businesses in their area, because as you well know, Dr. Scott, if you can have a cohort of 4 or 6 other businesses that you can work closely with, wow, does that make a difference to your results?
Yeah, that's right. And I've actually been to these expos before, even when Paula was running them, and they do bring a lot of business to your business, especially because the majority of the population do not know what I do, but also for other businesses, because there are a lot of businesses out there that just don't, people don't know about, or that they're just not big enough yet, that because the other businesses are too big for them, and they can spend millions of dollars on advertising, and these other businesses just don't have that access. So when you do that one-to-one contact with people, then they get that trust a lot easier through the expo. And it's very important to a lot of small businesses, especially bigger businesses. I get it. They're probably going to be there anyway because they've got the money to send those people, that they just send employees. So but when you actually have the business owner in front of you, it's a different story.
Yeah, look, definitely. That personal touch is really important. I mean, having said that, the expo is just one day out of a year, depending on which area you're operating in. As you've mentioned, the bigger businesses do tend to attend most of our expos. But the local business that might just attend Moreton Bay or might just attend Brisbane or whatever, we got a lot of feedback last year in terms of, well, the expos are great and it's great for that face-to-face stuff, but what do we do to market our business and keep it in front of the public for the rest of the year, for the other 364 days? And that's one of the reasons that we've launched this buy local online directory. So there'll be a buy local directory for Moreton Bay, there'll be a buy low directory for Brisbane, there'll be one for the Gold Coast, there'll be one for Logan, and that's an online directory that anybody with an ABN can become a part of for free. And obviously, if you want to really make inroads, it's also an opportunity for you to cost effectively market your business on an ongoing basis, especially when we have events like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter. There are all of these retail opportunities that we can explore that combine both the physical and the digital promotional opportunity to expand your business.
So tell us about that. So that's an online expo, is that right?
It's an online directory. So buy local. We've had it going now for a bit over a year on the Sunshine Coast. We've used that as a bit of a test bed, to be honest, to iron out the kinks, so to speak. We'll be rolling it out in Moreton Bay very, very shortly, and then in all the other areas, we'll be rolling out the buy local directory in conjunction with the expo that's being held. So we'll roll it out for Logan in May. We'll roll it out for Brisbane later in March, Gold Coast in June. Sunshine Coast is already there. So we will have this network of buy local directories that will cover pretty much the entirety of Southeast Queensland, but on a region by region basis. So it's not one of these things that you go to and it's the buy local website and then you select your region. Each region has its own buy local presence. So you'll go, if you live in the Sunshine Coast area, you'll go to the buy local Sunshine Coast. If you live in the Moreton Bay area, you'll go to the buy local Moreton Bay. So it provides a really well-defined promotional footprint.
That's crazy. That's it's amazing.
Yeah, so, we're really excited by it. I think it'll make a huge difference. Everybody knows that if you can spend, well, maybe not everybody knows, but if people in their own local area can spend an extra $10 a week with their local businesses, it makes a huge difference to the viability of the local business community. It always makes me smile when, we're all used to now going to Amazon and eBay and all of these online mega stores to get, great deals and all of this sort of stuff. But those online mega stores don't do anything to contribute to your local community. So if you're a family with a couple of kids and those kids play basketball basketball or they play cricket or they play softball or whatever, the first thing that you do if you get involved in the committee for that club, you go to your local businesses and say, can you help us out with some sponsorship? And the local businesses want to help out, but if they've not got the customers there, if they've not got the revenue being generated, then they can't help, right? So by helping our local businesses, we're helping our local community and spending just $10 a week. So instead of spending $10 the next time you go onto Amazon, see what you've got in your local area and see if you can spend that $10 locally. And that's what we want the buy local directory to become, right? We want I get a lot of consumers will talk to me and say, we want to spend our money locally, but we don't know what stores are in the local area. We don't know if they do this or if they do that. And that's what the buy local directory is designed to overcome. So we can introduce members of the community to businesses in the community, and everybody's going to be better off as a result of that. So.
Yeah, that's very important. We spoke about that last time, and now I know why the big companies. I understand. I get it. I don't know if you knew this, Dennis, but if 50% of your income comes from overseas, you're actually tax exempt.
Right. Okay. Didn't know that.
So. Then they wonder why. Then they're saying, "Oh, we're trying to keep the dollar in Australia," and they're giving exemptions.
Yeah, crazy.
But so that's why these mega companies like you're talking about, that's why they're making so much money. So that they can put up a business here and they can sell overseas to themselves.
Yep, that's right.
And then we're paying for it. It's fair.
Yeah,
it's a great system. It's a great system.
It's a bit of a raw, isn't it?
That's why I always wondered about the mining industry, because why do they, they always talk about their tax exempt. Now I get it. Now I understand why.
Yep.
But so that's fantastic. So if you've got a small business out there, this is the directive for you. And so tell us, how did you get a hold of that brainstorm? Was it just because purely you wanted to keep the dollar within Australia, or was it just?
Well, that was the motivation. That's certainly the motivation is in terms of keeping money, as much money as we can in our local community where it can do us the most good, right? In our own backyard, right? So that was the motivation. But it was actually through networking that I was introduced to a man that was thinking the same as me, and it was actually a couple of steps ahead of me. And his name's Luke Hawley. He was a member of the leadership team for a networking company that I'm involved in and that you're involved in, called BX Business Networking. And he and I got talking. He was based up in Noosa. At the time, I was based in North Lakes. And we started talking about how can we work together to make this buy local an actual thing for Southeast Queensland. And because I had the expos and because he had the buy local directory, we decided to come together with that entity and spread it around Southeast Queensland. So we've formed a commercial relationship where he has the software and the platform. We have the contacts in the local business community. So it made sense for us to work together. And that's a perfect example of what any local business can achieve. Like if you attend the expo and you're talking to other local businesses, you're going to meet people you didn't even know exist in your local area, and that presents you with opportunity. So you just never know where the next opportunity is going to come from when you put yourself out there. But you've got to take that first step and put yourself out there. And that's something that local businesses in the main, there are exceptions, but it's something where local businesses don't do well in, either because they don't know what opportunities are available for them to put themselves out there, or they don't feel confident enough to sort of bang the drum and go out there and say, hey, here's what we do. What do you do? And that's what the expos, in a physical sense, try and achieve, is to break down some of those barriers and provide an environment that encourages people to talk to each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you, Dennis. It's a tough, as tough as it is just to be in business itself. But then this is one thing that I always talk about within my industry, is that they teach us how to do the technical stuff, but they teach us nothing about business and how to get your name out there and how to market yourself.
Yeah,
There's just zero. There's zero knowledge on how to, run the business, especially around your marketing, because it's very important. You can test and measure your cash flow from your marketing. So if your marketing is doing well, then you're gonna have a good cash flow. It's just common sense. But yeah, they don't teach you anything about that. They just teach you about. But this is not the only industry. It's every industry, accountants as well, and the e-commerce. The e-commerce. These are the guys learning about business, and they don't teach them anything about marketing.
Exactly.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Have you released any dates on when you're going to do this? You're not 100% sure yet?
Well, we know that Brisbane's going to be late March. I'm just awaiting a couple of things from the venue to lock in the specific date. Logan,
that's huge, isn't it? That's at
that's our biggest one is Brisbane.
That's the
definitely.
convention
and
center,
sorry,
is that the convention center?
It's at the Nissan Arena. So
okay.
it's a large venue, and I mean, obviously, Brisbane is a big city, so we do get a lot of local businesses getting engaged with that one. Logan is on the 29th of May. Our June date hasn't been released yet, but we'll have all of the dates pretty much by the end of next week. So and the best way for people to plug into that is just to go along to our website, which is just smallbusinessexpos.com.au, and register to become a part of our community, because that will keep you updated with the with the latest deals and also with the dates for the upcoming expos. I mean, we've already got registrations for Brisbane and registrations for the Gold Coast from past exhibitors. Everything's humming along quite nicely, and we've got quite a few new initiatives this year to make the day even more engaging and hopefully more productive for both our exhibitors and our visitors. And for anybody that wants to visit, you don't have to have a business. You can come along and visit and see what's going on, and it's free entry, so it doesn't cost anything to have a look at the expo. We do ask visitors to contribute a gold coin to a nominated charity, but there's no compulsion to do that, so it's totally free. If you've got an hour to spare or a couple of hours to spare, it's a great thing to be a part of, and we're encouraging local consumers and community members to be visitors, to show their support for their local business community.
Excellent. So are you expanding to the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast as well? Or
definitely. With Sunshine Coast will be August, that we'll be up there, and we're going to be at a place called the Station at Batinia, which is just near Maroochydore. Quite a funky little venue. We're looking forward to that. And the Gold Coast we have at the Intercontinental Resort at Sanctuary Cove. So that's a really nice venue for us to showcase local business in the Gold Coast region. So yeah, and Logan, we've not run a show in Logan for a few years now. So we're looking forward to getting back there on the 29th of May. And that will be at the Distillery Road Market Complex, just at Beenleigh there. So yeah, it's definitely all happening.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking, you got a few happening. So what's that?
Yeah. So when you asked me before, what gets me out of bed in the morning, all these goddamn expos that I've got to organise, or me and the team anyway, I've got to organise. Sort of forces me out of bed pretty early every day.
Yeah, that's right. So who's the team now? Is it? Have you got any employees, or is it your wife? Your daughter?
Yeah, well, my wife is involved in the business, as is my youngest daughter, and then I've got a couple of people that operate on the fringes for us, and then we've got a logistics team which coordinates all of the bump in and bump out for exhibitors and the support in those areas. We've got half a dozen people engaged in that, so that everything can run smoothly on the day. So yeah, it's a growing team, which is great.
Excellent. That's great. That's great news, mate. So yeah, and so tell us more about the AusBiz links. About when where did that start? Did it start in North Lakes, or did it start?
No, it actually started on the Gold Coast many moons ago. Back in the late 1990s, actually. Those of us that are old enough, have been around in business for a while, can remember a thing in the mid-90s forward called Y2K, where it was predicted that the whole computer system of the globe would fall into a heap. Well, I actually qualified to become a Y2K auditor. Where I went along to businesses and tested their equipment and provided them with advice on how to make themselves compliant and all of that sort of thing. Now, back then, so we're talking about 1997, back then, people's understanding in business of computer systems, etc., wasn't sophisticated. But me walking in, because being a registered Y2K auditor with the Queensland government, I got a lot of referral business through the Queensland government, where businesses are obviously making contact with government saying, how do we make sure that we're not going to fall over and, New Year's Day on 2000, on the year 2000. And they would refer those businesses to me and other auditors. There were a few of us at the time. But once I'd visited a business and audited them from a Y2K perspective and gave them a report on what they needed to do, I was sort of seen as a bit of a guru in all things to do with computers, including websites. Because in the late 1990s, websites weren't the critical factor in generating business for businesses that they are now. So I was getting asked all sorts of questions about, how do I get a website built? How, what's this thing called SEO? All of this sort of stuff. And for a while, I was just passing those inquiries on to colleagues who were in that area. And then one of my mates actually said to me, look, you are giving a shitload of business away to a lot of people. So I decided to bring on a couple of staff that were experts in those fields. And that's where AusBizLink started, is really to help businesses with their digital footprint. So because obviously Y2K auditing came to an end in the January of 2000. And that gave me a natural progression to move forward from there. So that's where AusBizLinks was born. Life throws you all sorts of opportunities, so you just never know where they're coming from. So AusBizLinks has been going for, well over 20 years, 25 years now. It's morphed into a overall support business for local businesses rather than just specializing in digital footprint. We've got the digital support and advice services. We have the expos, and we now have the buy local business directory. So yeah, quite a few facets to the business now. It's basically a one-stop shop to help local businesses grow. That's what our purpose is.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. So I didn't actually know that about your business. I didn't know that you actually help people rebuild their websites as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a facet of the business that we actively promote, but it is a facet of the business where we can help a local business, because there are people out there that are very, very good at helping businesses develop their website. We're more about giving people advice and input on what direction they need to go in that space. And then when it comes to let's rebuild the website, let's this, let's that, we tend to introduce those businesses to people in our community that we know are doing that, 24/7. So for example, in the northern part of Brisbane, Jan Roach, who does a great job in that space, right? So we recommend Jan. We've got people on the south side that we recommend. So it just depends on. Not that you have to be in a geographic location for digital work, but I think it's good if you can refer a local digital expert to a local business rather than a remote digital expert. So that's because we're about trying to keep revenues in communities, right? So it'd be a bit hypocritical of us to recommend a company in Sydney to redevelop a website when we know there are very, very good companies in areas of Brisbane that can do the same thing. So our priority is always to promote local wherever we possibly can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to ask you now. Let's get onto the books. How many you got? How many have you written and published?
3 so far. I'm working on a 4th at the moment, but 3 so far. One on time management, one on sales development, and one on how to retire early. So, which is the one that I'm best known for. It's got the widest circulation, I guess. And that one's called if 70's the new 50, when do I get to retire? And that was actually stimulated and born out of our own experience, myself and my wife's, when we decided in 2013 that we were going to move to Germany for 2 years. So our journey in planning, preparing, and then executing that plan was the backbone of what became the book when I came back from Germany in 2019. Because the 2 years turned into 3.5. We were having such a good time over there. We extended by 18 months and came back to Australia in the early part of 2019.
And what were you doing in Germany? What? Because that's one of my goals is to be overseas for about 6 months.
Yep.
In another country. So what drove you to do that? Was it just opportunity, or was it the business?
Yeah, look, it was
that way.
It was a combination of opportunity and desire. Like my wife is an educator. She was head of college for a private school in Noosa, deputy head of college and head of primary in Noosa, which is where we were living. She'd always wanted to head up her own school and be totally in charge rather than just second in charge, which would have meant a move outside of Noosa. And that was fine. We were quite prepared for that. But our youngest daughter was approaching her senior years in high school, and had made it perfectly clear that as soon as she was finished with high school, she was moving out of home, moving down to Brisbane, and she was going to pursue a university degree in business and law. So my wife and I got talking about that and said, well, if Jazz isn't going to be around, what are we going to do? Do we want to stay here? Blah. And I fully expected my wife to turn around and say, well, I think this is my opportunity now to move away from Noosa to head up my own school, because we'd stayed in Noosa we were there for a bit over 10 years, largely to give Jazz stability with, teenage years, friendship groups, all of that sort of thing. But she surprised me. She turned around and said, well, you know what? I wouldn't mind living and working overseas for a couple of years. And that sort of set me back, because I wasn't expecting that. Now, I'm of British descent. I was born in the UK. She's of German descent. She was born in Germany, but she came over when she was 4. So she's been backwards and forwards to Germany, and she's got relatives over there, all that sort of stuff. She'd never lived there. So I said, look, I'm hearing that you want to live and work overseas, but I think overseas means Germany. And she said, well, it could just as easily be England. I said, look, to be honest, yes, I'm English. I've got an Australian citizenship now, all that sort of stuff. But I don't particularly want to go back and live in England because I left England for a reason. I don't want to go back there to live again. So Germany it is. So we decided that we would go for 2 years. This was in 2013. And Jazz was finishing high school at the end of 2014. So we started to look at, well, okay, number one, is it feasible for us to look at going to Germany? Number two, if it is feasible, what would we do? How would we do it? So the next 18 months was all about planning. And the first part of that planning was feasibility. Can we do it? And how would that look? So then we went through all of that. It did mean that I had to change the direction of my business, because AusBizLinks was a consulting business more than anything. And most of my clients were in, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and they required a physical presence. If I was going to go to Germany, I needed to update and improve on our digital platforms so that I could conduct that business digitally. And I knew that would mean taking a hit, because some of my clients would not go for that. As it turned out, probably 60% of my clients wouldn't go for that. So I introduced those clients to other people that I thought could service them well. And then the 30-40% that were left, I worked with remotely. So, whilst I took a revenue hit, it was doable. And my wife investigated education opportunities. Now she's fluent in German, can read and write in German. So, she found opportunities within the international education community. And she managed to find a school just outside of Frankfurt in Germany, which the language of tuition was English, because Frankfurt is a finance capital of Europe. And especially now that London's no longer a part of the EU. So there are a lot of, English-speaking financial people that banking, business development, all of that sort of thing. The language of business in Frankfurt is English. So they have families, they have kids that need an education while they're stationed in Frankfurt for however long it might be. So she got a job as the director for the early years program of the international school. So basically from kindergarten through to year 1. And so that's what we did. We moved over there, and it took us probably a couple of months to settle into the to the lifestyle and the culture and that sort of thing. But then from that point on, we just had an absolute blast, and it was very much a case of every weekend we were going somewhere, because in Frankfurt you're within 3 hours driving distance of 5 other countries. So you're not just going to another city for a weekend, you're going to another country like Austria or Switzerland or France or Italy, or so it was quite a surreal lifestyle for a few years, and it was actually my wife's school that prompted us to consider extending for 18 months, because she was on a 2-year contract, and at the end of that 2 years they asked her to renew for 12 months, and then at the end of that 12 months asked her to renew for another 6, and that sort of coincided with the Australian school year, because obviously in Europe their school year is August through to June, whereas in Australia it's January through to December. So we were able to manage that, and when we came back, my wife was able to get a role at a school in North Brisbane, which is where we decided to live for a couple of years. And then COVID came into the picture. So, because it was always our intention to move to the Gold Coast rather than Brisbane per se. But the 2-year program that we had for Brisbane turned out to be 4 years because of the COVID experience. And now we live on Mount Tamborine in the Gold Coast hinterland. And it's, we're loving it. It's great. So that's the journey to...
Jeez, that's awesome. That's a great story. So I'll go on to the third question. Unless there's something else you want to talk about your business?
No, not at all. No.
All right. So I'll go on to the third question. So what's your ideal client? Who's your ideal avatar?
Yeah, look, our ideal client is a local business that is non-employing outside of their own family, but looking to expand beyond where they are now. So we because expansion beyond your own family is the biggest and most challenging step in business development for any business. So that's where we feel we can make the biggest difference in supporting a business taking that step. Because if they're going to take that step, they need to start employing people outside of their family. And that really is huge. It's not just a case of putting an ad out there and saying, we need this sort of person. There's a lot that goes into that. So the expos, which is why we've called them the Business and Jobs Expos, it's not about finding employment. It is about helping local businesses understand what their responsibilities are and how they need to structure themselves in order to become employing businesses, and then how to find those sorts of staff. So the Business and Jobs Expos puts local businesses and job service providers and the relevant government departments in touch with each other, right? So we're not about a jobs expo. You don't come along to our expo to find work, because that's not what we're about. But if you're a business that is looking to expand, then the Business and Jobs Expos are ideal, because not only does it allow you to promote your business, it introduces you to people that will help you and support you in making that giant leap from a non-employing business to an employing business.
That's awesome. So just before I go on to the last question, I just want to ask you about this new book, the 4th book. So when are you going to release that? Do you know yet?
It won't be released until 2026. I'm just working on the embryonics of it now. I've got the overall format and scope of it, but I've now got to fill in. I've got to fill in the detail, and that book is all about what does the next 7 years hold for Australian business, Australian local business, because our society is changing quite dramatically. We've got a huge shift just in terms of the baby boomers exiting the business community and retiring. And the new generations coming through. There are some real opportunities within that, but there are also some real challenges. So that's what that book is about. And I feel that I'm qualified to write a book like that because I'm in the eye of the storm here. Like yourself, we are, we've been around for a while. We know that our use by date is, from a business point of view, is approaching. And that's what my, if 70 is a new 50, that's what that book's about. But from a business point of view, what do we need to start considering? What does that next generation need to start considering if they're going to go into business? Because here's an interesting, a very interesting fact. Family businesses where, the baby boomers have built this business and their intention was for their kids to take it over. Their kids are saying, I don't want to have a bar of it. I don't want to take on the business, right? Because they've seen how hard their parents work and they're not prepared to put that in. And I'm not going to make a comment about whether that's right or wrong. It's a fact of how people are feeling. So if we can't get the next generation to start thinking about what are they going to do when all of this happens, we're in big trouble. Because if every local business starts to shut down, what happens to our communities? And this is what my book is going to be about. How do we safeguard, how do we ensure the ongoing success of local business so that our local communities don't fragment? We don't want a world where the big corporates are running everything. It just isn't worth thinking about. So it will be next year before that's released. But watch this space. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I do. I'm interested. So I'll go on to the last question.
Can I put you down for an advance copy?
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Sold. So tell us about the last question is because we're pushing at 11 o'clock now. So I apologize, everyone, as well. We were a little bit late. There was a bit of a communication mix-up, but we got there eventually. So tell us what ideas or information would you give to create lifelong longevity, please, Dennis?
Yeah. Look, the biggest thing I think people need to consider in terms of their longevity and quality of life is stay happy, right? If you're working in a job or you're working in a business that you own and you don't enjoy it, get the hell out as quickly as you can. There is nothing that will erode your health quicker than stress, and you don't want it in your life. So take it out. A little bit of stress is good, makes us stretch a little bit, but if you're under stress, most of the time, you can't have a quality of life. So eliminate the stress wherever you can. That's my big tip.
Appreciate it, Dennis. Thank you so much for coming on today, the Get Busy Living podcast. And I'll get my VA to give you the links to the platforms that I recorded this on. So then you can put your 3 books and your 10,000 businesses that you've got. And so if people are interested, especially the smallbusinessexpo.com, is that right?
.com.au. Yep.
.com.au. smallbusinessexpo.com.au. And yeah, if you've got a business, it's a must go. And even if you don't want to have a stall, you can at least just go and check it out. It's a fantastic day. Yeah. And thanks again, Dennis. If you can put those details in, and so people can get in contact with you.
Shall do.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time, Dennis.
Love it. Love your work.
As I said, you've been watching the Get Busy Living podcast. I'm Dr. Scott from 6 Sense Acupuncture and the wonderful Dennis Hall. And you guys have a great day.